Hello and welcome to Dream Job Ready. My name is Dane Sharp, I'm your host, and I'm joined in this episode by Alita Harvey-Rodriguez and Natalie Khoury from MI Academy.
Please note that the opinions of guests are their own and not those of the companies they have worked for. This is Dream Job Ready with Dane Sharp.
G'day Alita and Natalie, thank you so much for joining me on Dream Job Ready. How are both of you going today?
Great.
Hey, we've got plenty to talk about today. Coming from MI Academy, digital marketing, customer experience, team training, and consultancy for retailers. There are going to be a lot of people listening to this that are jam-packed right in the middle of their retail careers with, plenty to come and plenty to go in their journeys. What I want to zero in on with you guys today is around what advice have we got for those people? What's coming next? What should we see from a skill set point of view in the next couple of years? So first of all, if you can set us up really quickly, Alita, I'll throw to you, give us the nuts and bolts about what you do on a daily basis at MI Academy.
Well, what I do and what we do, I think they're the same thing, but they're a little bit different. What we do as an organisation in its entirety is we empower teams to think. And we do that through consultative style training and customised training. There's tons of different training companies out there and friends with a lot of them and everybody's got their place. But when it comes to the ability to think strategically, that's where we come in, is to really make those 1% differences in the business. We teach you the know-how, but that ability to think is really where our biggest value is that empowerment in thought.
And the work you're doing with organisations, and I guess the coaching and leveling on those skill sets, it goes top to bottom, right? Like this is something you can learn at any point throughout your journey, and more importantly, we all need to be learning every day in our roles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we work with everybody and train everybody from CEOs right down to the people that are manning the stores and are working behind the counters in stores. And I think that's a real testament to the work that we do, that our practices are organizational wide and you don't get the transformation that you're truly looking for if it's not a top-down approach. If you don't have the CEO's buy-in, you're never going to get the transformation that you're really looking for. Otherwise, it becomes departmental and customer experience sticks with that one department. It's not a systemic change that's happening throughout the business.
Yeah, and some stuff that we also do with sort of the CEOs or leaders in a business is we do executive coaching with them. So we get the people doing really doing the execution, but then helping the managers and the CEOs and the leaders of that business understand how to get the best out of their team and get the most out of their team as well.
And Nat, where's the call to arms at the moment? Like, where are companies and the staff that work for those companies needing the most assistance and guidance and coaching?
So it's really about increasing their skill set, because the industry is changing so rapidly and so quickly that if you just get stuck in the day-to-day and, on that hamster wheel, just doing the same thing all the time, you're not really going to see the increase in sales or the increase in customer experience. And competition is so vast now that there are businesses doing the same thing popping up all the time. So what we are seeing is that people are needing to slow down so they can speed up, which is one of our sort of values at MI Academy, and really teaching them how to take that moment in time to really look at the problem that they're experiencing and then how do they solve that specific problem.
We met through a really cool initiative that you guys put on, which was called the Retail Hack Games. And it was super fun, and it really asked a couple of really interesting questions about the retail business and really just the business industry at the moment. To just zero in on a couple of those things, one of the key points of discussion was around what's going to happen to the retail job industry. Is it going to get overtaken by robots and computers and AI, etc.? And if it does, what is the human going to get out of that, and how are we going to work? What does the next couple of years look like for the retail industry workforce?
Workforce-wise, well, I mean, look, I think we've started to see a big shift in that change just with what's happened with the dreaded C word. I'm not going to give it its lifeblood. So I think look, for us, when we see it, the shift into experience is going to be huge. And this isn't just from its basic gratuities as like, did I check you out okay? Did I get you the right size? Was the return policy okay? Like, what was the human experience that was part of that journey? What made me walking into your store completely different from walking into somebody else's? And I guess, you could kind of, look, I'm just talking about in-store experience, but there's a whole forum of things that we can really talk about. If we're talking from in-store, I think if you want to look at one of the best brands that does that, I think Lululemon, you've walked into a Lululemon store. Everybody's been through landmark training, and they all have a really similar, beautiful, open mindset. That experience of that feeling experience, not just a functional experience, I think is going to make a massive difference for retailers moving forward.
I do see that retailers are now a little bit less resistant to the whole AI word, and the fact that there are going to be robots that are going to be doing some things. I saw a really interesting news story about a new delivery warehouse where they had robots going in and getting the boxes out, but they still had that human element of someone packing the boxes, but they're able to turn over product within 4 hours and get it delivered. That's really exciting for retailers. And so I think that's the future of retail. It's bringing in the experience of your staff and your humans with the computers and bringing it together to really create an exceptional experience for your customers.
Yeah, I think even to continue to build on that, like if we're talking about in-store experience, but then expanding that out into what the supply chain is going to look like, because retail starts way beyond, before we even get into what we actually see, what products we buy. The future, again, like another piece of it is going to be around this transparency of supply chain. How ethically are you sourced? How well are you paying your staff? Are the farms that you're buying your cottons and fabrics from paying fair wages? Are the polyester fabrics and things that you're using, or any plastics that you're using, are they coming from recycled, sustainable sources? Again, we're seeing these massive shifts, and this shift. Sorry, I'm using a pencil because I get excited. This transparency is coming because, and this shift is coming because of us, and us that are sitting behind the computer who has the power to ask these questions and definitely wants to connect with brands that mean something to us. I think Deloitte, who was actually one of the sponsors for the Hat Games, put out this great report. I think the report came out about 2 years ago, and it was talking about millennials and the importance of having brand trust and purpose or passion over profit. And I think that the brands that that embrace this and embrace this, vulnerability that we're all asked to have now, I think are the ones that are going to start to take a greater market share for the future generations.
And I think we should be excited about the need to move there. And I've heard you guys talk about before around, moving into that more sort of having the ability to think and be creative in the workforce and in your jobs. And I think everyone will, in some respects, will be happy to remove those kind of cookie cutter assembly line, the same thing I'm doing every minute of the day, every day for the rest of my life kind of jobs. And if we can move away from them, it's going to free up more time to kind of think and work out how the business does improve. And to your point, whether that's a customer experience level or whether that's a sustainability level or whether that's a revenue bottom line, this is going to be better than what we were doing point of view. And I guess that's what you're trying to help uncover in the journey for businesses, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Our purpose is to help your teams to be able to think and be able to create so that you can be, customer centric, that you're not driving decisions from an egocentric place. And you do have the skills and the ability to rapidly test these creations that you've got so that you can de-risk any innovation programs or projects that you have. We see it time and time again, and we get people coming to us after it's kind of, I want to say it's too late, but it's not too late for them. You can always change and you can always move forward, and that's what we're here for. But, we'll say, oh, we ran a hackathon internally, and okay, great, awesome. What were the outcomes? Oh, we had some good ideas. Okay, are you taking any of them forward? Oh, well, yeah, no, but it won't work. Okay, so you've wasted a whole day. Yes, there's been some team building, but what's your innovation program? What's your process for carrying those things forward? And I also want to say this is that when you think of something, thinking of one thing isn't going to be able to create change for you. You need to think about 4 different things to solve the same problem, have a process for rapidly testing them and thinking about how you can drive that and iterate it moving forward. And I just keep saying it, think is going to be the absolute future, because we have, I think it's 77 million jobs is going to go to AI, and those jobs are repeatable things. Like Nat was saying, when you're on the mouse wheel and you're repeating your job, yes, there are going to be, I think it's 122 million jobs that are created off the back of that. But the people that are going to get those jobs are the people that know how to think, have the bravery and the courage to create, and have the tools internally and leadership, most importantly, to be able to carry them forward so that they can make those changes in their business and implement them and scale successfully.
Yeah, you can't teach a robot emotional intelligence. You can't teach a robot to problem solve or critically think or to be creative. And these are the skills that we work with our retailers on, really kind of driving that critical thinking, that problem solving, that creativity, teaching them about emotional intelligence and motivation and empathy, and how to really think about their customers and be in their customers' shoes and really understand the pain points that their customers are feeling that they can help solve.
Yeah, and listening is a key part of that, which is going to be a huge skill for moving forward. And like Nat said, with empathy, listening is going to be so huge. And being able to have consciousness about your unconscious biases, be collaborative in the way that you approach things, is definitely going to be a future skill that people are going to have to come forward with.
Let's get down to the one-on-one, because obviously one-on-one podcast right now for that person that's listening, they may be at a company that is a big ship, and it's going to take some time to move that company to where it needs to get to, and it will eventually get to. But for that person, how do they start, or where do they start looking to make sure that they're equipped and ready ahead of time? So where are you seeing skills that aren't what they need to be consistently across the retail business? Where are you seeing the opportunity, or what are you spotting as an opportunity for someone in that game right now?
Yeah, Dane, I was listening to the podcast with the CEO of the sports team, I think in Queensland, Jeff, and he was talking about emotional intelligence, and he was also talking about that he had, rather soft skills and was kind of never going to make it as a CEO, which I just heard the word soft skills and all of my buttons went, yeah. And because soft skills are going to be these ones, so soft skills, but they're not. These are the skills that are going to carry you forward. So I really encourage people that are listening to go and do some courses about understanding their unconscious bias. There's a great book that's called Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow that I highly encourage everybody to go and read. If you haven't, go and check it out. If you're like me and you're dyslexic, go and get the audio book and listen to that. I think the other thing that I think a lot of corporates, and I know a lot of corporates really struggle with, is the ability to close the loop. So, they start projects and then something else comes in and pushes it out, and then there's no resolution at the top and how that's feeding down into future projects. So understand the importance of closing the loop, and ask about, when you are working somewhere, ask about the practices that they have of closing the loop, because as a new person coming into a company, you want to make a difference in the place that you're going to, because that's why you chose that's why you wanted to work there, because you feel like you can make a difference. And a really important part of knowing is whether you can make the difference is whether they have a process around closing the loop on projects. So they're my kind of two little tips.
If you're working at a company that, as you said, Dane, it is a big ship and it's kind of really difficult to kind of maneuver and change. If you're looking for a new job or you're about to, be hired, I would definitely be asking that company, how do you invest in your team's training? How do you invest in my development and my skill sets? What can I do to ensure that I'm growing and continuing to grow in this role at this company? I was very lucky in my career in the early days that we got, fantastic leadership and management training. We got exposed, I got exposed to emotional intelligence, at 24, 25, like really early on in my career. And it's something that has always stayed with me and continues to stay with me in everything I do. And so if that's what you're looking for in the company that you're working with, then ask them and push for it. And companies should have a budget for team training. When we talk to retailers and some of the bigger retailers that we work with, it doesn't come out of a marketing budget. It comes out of a team training budget to justify the cost of this, because that's what we're doing. We're transforming and empowering their teams. We're just lucky that there's execution in what we do as well. So they do see the benefit. It's not just sending your team off to go and do a short course somewhere for a day. It's very much, the team's learning how to do the do and executing results. So they're seeing results really quickly, but then they're growing and learning those skills around emotional intelligence, around creative thinking, around design thinking, around problem solving, and how to work more collaboratively as a team. And that is something that you should be looking for in a company that you want to work for.
That's all really good advice. And Nat, I love what you've said there just around what I can do as a listener. And it doesn't mean I have to go out and study my own things and find my own courses and, create my own journey, which is fine if you do want to do that. But to your point, asking for help. And in this case, you actually will potentially be a change maker for the business you're working for.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really good. And you're right. If that business isn't already looking at and investing in that space, one question might lead to several other people at the business asking the same question and turning that ship a little bit quicker.
In the retailers that we're working with, we're starting to see that there's pretty big. Their marketing teams are big. Retail is now not just a one or two team marketing. People in the background doing email campaigns. The marketing team is now becoming a really core function and the lifeblood of retailers. And they've got to keep up with, so many different things now. It's not just email campaigns, it's social, it's web, it's apps, it's
SEO, it's UX,
it's the data insights, it's looking at, feedback, it's reviews, it's so many different things. And so the marketing team is really transforming as we move forward in the world as we know.
And can I ask you guys honestly, do you still like the term digital marketing, or is the digital word just becoming a waste of time and we all live in a world
I'm so glad you asked that. I've actually spent some time thinking about this recently, and it's funny that you ask, because I just don't. It's like retail, when you talk about omni-channel and you talk about e-commerce, I think the lines got blurred a long time ago, and now it's just retail, and now it's just marketing. And I personally don't like the term digital marketing. If you're a brand marketer and you're used to working in traditional mediums like television, like billboards, like radio, you're going to have to get those skills to translate online, because all of those things exist online now. We've got YouTube, we've got podcasts like yourselves, we've got Spotify, we've got all of TikTok, we've got all of these things that are now, TikTok is TV. When people say, I don't watch TV, it's like, do you watch TikTok? Do you watch Instagram? Yeah, so you do watch TV. It's just a different word for it now. So no, I don't like digital marketing.
I'm really happy about that, because I think for the listener that you may not have to be passionate about the digital sense, and you may not go on to be an expert in any of the channels or mediums you just mentioned there. But I don't think you can be successful in the next stack of years unless you at least acknowledge, appreciate, understand the world that has been labelled by digital. So, and I want to, Nat, jump to you, because I know throughout your career you've had some really interesting roles, and the customer has been a key part of that in multiple roles, or all the roles, I'm sure. I'd love you to kind of, share some insights around throughout your career. What's the what are the couple things that have stayed really consistent and are even maybe now more important when it comes to thinking about the customer? So no matter what industry the listener right now is working in, a customer is always important. They're always right, is the term, right?
Yeah. I learned very early on in my career that, because I did sales for a long time, and so I learned very early on in my career that I was a farmer, not a hunter. And even when I was hunting for sales and in that typical hunter role in sales, there was still a huge part of farming, which was nurturing that customer and really taking care of, their problems and what they were experiencing, and how what I was going to offer them was going to solve that for them. So that was a really big part for me. And that's when I shifted in going, actually, I need to sort of move away from this sort of sales role, because what was happening, I spent all this time investing in this customer and listening to them and caring about them and knowing what's going on in their business, to then need to just move on to the next one. And so then I moved into this really beautiful role around customer loyalty and customer retention and customer success. So making sure that whatever we were doing with that customer was successful. And so it still stands today, when we work with a customer, it's like, what is their biggest pain point? What do we need to solve for them? What is the impact that we're going to have on their business, and how is it going to translate into revenue? How is it going to translate their customers' experience? How's it going to, how's it going to impact the team and what that business is doing, and really revolutionize how they move forward in what they're doing. So yes, customer is still key and still gold. With the world that it is, and it being so online now, one of the biggest things that we focus on are reviews, and making sure that and Alita spoke about closing the loop, and, she spoke about it from an internal perspective. That's a huge part in a lot of sort of client insights or client loyalty or product review sites that I see. There's no closing the loop with that customer. So, how do we close the loop with that customer and really offer that one-on-one online experience from a review that's been done? We create programs with retailers where the whole program is just based on making sure that we're hearing from our customers, we're gathering that feedback, and we're closing the loop with that customer. And so there's sort of the key things that I've taken from my career in running, global NPS programs, to smaller, gathering product reviews on Trustpilot. For me, it's about listening to the customer, really understanding what the key problem is, solving that, and closing the loop.
Yeah, it's also, I've always been passionate about CX, mainly driven by the fact that I hate having bad experiences as a customer or a consumer. It drives me insane. So I do my best to try and avoid that anytime I have a project or platform I'm working on. And Alita, what we were talking about before around some of that technology that's coming or is already here, things like AI, it's only going to aid us into getting to know the customer and understand them better. But to your point earlier, we still need to be creative and have the ability to think around what are we going to do with the data and what are we going to do with the extra knowledge we now know about the customer to help them and make the experience even better, right? And you must be working on that already with some cool retailers.
Yeah, and it kind of works. I think it plays into also that one of the biggest gripes that we're seeing at the moment with marketers is that I don't have the budget for the technology that I need to make the changes that I need to make. And there's a couple of things that I'll talk about the technology that we need to create the things that we need. So it's like looking at actually what do the customers need and do we have the tech to support that? Most of the time, and this comes back to creativity, you can look at the tech stack that you've got and go, okay, I can make these 1% changes if I use my tech in this particular way. So I don't actually need to go and purchase new technology. I need to be able to think creatively about the tech that I have to solve that customer's problem. And that often happens a lot. And it's usually a big sigh of relief on the CEO's shoulders going, oh, okay, great. I don't have to spend that 150 grand on that software piece or whatever it is, because I've hired a team who knows how to think. And we just needed to change a process somewhere. Usually that kind of happens. And then, there's the other kind of side of things that we'll be doing a lot more talking about. We've just started unpacking some content pieces for marketers And, you know, some marketers might not want to hear this, but this comes back to having a team that has the ability to create. We've seen marketing budgets be slashed by about 69%. And this is, you know, freaking out marketing managers and marketing directors who goes, I have these massive targets to hit and I have no budget to achieve that with. But what happens if you start to think about your marketing team a little bit like the way that you drive your sales team's targets, and you start with what we call a zero-based budget? What happens if you started with nothing and all you had was the ability to create something and just, you know, hack together something to start to bring those customers in? And obviously the first place that you start with the zero-based budget is with your customers, and something creative that you can pull your teams together that it's going to do something amazing. I think if I want to point to an awesome example of something around that was the Volvo campaign that happened last year, I think during the Super Bowl. They were, you know, it's $1 million plus to take out a Super Bowl spot. Volvo was like, nah, that's a bit rich, isn't it? Like, what if nothing happens? What if we just get, and then we've got all the production, that's just our ad cost. And what they did was they actually pulled their team together, had a creative think tank, and thought, okay, what can we do? And they just started on social media, drip feeding and hashtagging the Super Bowl and saying, if you hashtag Volvo or something, I think it was, you know, they had a special hashtag for the campaign, but if you hashtag Volvo every time there's a kick or something like that in the game, we're going to be giving away 5 of our brand new cars. And they actually had the most trending hashtag, and they spent nothing but a think tank with their team in the ability to create to have the most trending hashtag during the Super Bowl. So, you know, again, like, just goes back to, you just need to be able to think. You need to give your people the time and space to think, and also, and again, listen and have a way of testing multiple things and then having a process for scaling.
I like that. And what about, let's break it down. Let's go back to, you know, people that are starting their careers, specifically in the retail industry. And we talked about if they're, you know, one of those essential workers in the last 6 months has been packing shelves somewhere, or if they're just going back into the store and they are on the shop floor, you know, face to face with customers. What advice have you got for those guys or girls about branching from that over the next couple of years and then going up and beyond with their careers? Like, is there somewhere you'd suggest they look and start trending because there's a big opportunity there? Or conversely, would you tell them to avoid certain stuff because it's oversaturated?
You know what? I think, look, there's so many different areas of retail that you can go into. I think for anybody, you definitely need to get some core skills in digital. That's, you know, just and turn to places like, you know, and I'm just going to talk about our, you know, competitors. Go to places like General Assembly and go and do their digital marketing 12-week accelerator course, because that's going to put you in a great position. I also think go and do hackathons like these. There's so many, you might have done them at uni, but what we're looking for as employers is, what are you doing that's outside of your day job that's going to show me that you have a lot of passion for creating stuff? You know, if you go and do hackathons for, I don't know, smart cities, you know, because we had the first ever retail hackathon, and, you know, so you're not going to find them in retail, but if you go and find ones on smart cities, I think it's like hackathons.com or Hackathons Australia or something, and you can find heaps of them. Go and participate in that, because you're going to learn those really important skills that you need to have when you come into working with a team. It's also going to show your future employer that you're really passionate about making a difference, and they're the people that want to be hired these days, not somebody who's just like, this is my design portfolio and this is what I did for work every day. It's like, what are you excited about? I want to know about that, because it means you've got personality, it means you've got drive. Go and do stuff that's extracurricular. Go and volunteer for places like Girls in Tech, Code Like a Girl, and any other kind of communities that are out there.
In a previous life, I managed a graduate program where I would have, 12 graduates come and work with me for 2 years in a program. One of the first thing I would get them to do is go and participate in a Toastmasters course. So
yes,
it's just a really great way to increase your public speaking, to increase your confidence, to be able to think on your feet. And it's just that's one thing I would recommend you go and do. It's not expensive. Yeah. They're in every state. I think, Toastmasters is really great.
like $100 for the year or something.
How much?
It's like $100 for the year or something. And they have them, you'll find one in your community.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Listen to podcasts, read some books. And as I said, for me, the biggest thing is about emotional intelligence. Learn about self-regulation, self-awareness, learn about empathy, learn about these things like motivation, but what they really mean, and start to create them as a part of your DNA, because you will stand out. We've got people we've worked in with some of our customers who, they have just been packing the shelves in the background, but they've just been exceptional at what they do. And now all of a sudden they're creating email content and they're on our training courses because they've just stood out. That's me. Or, they were a tennis coach. One of our clients, one of our clients is tennis gear. And so, they were a tennis coach and they just loved what, the energy and stuff. And so now that person is like, a manager in the business.
Yeah, I like what you said, the value of knowledge and, the keys for what you said before, thinking and planning from that is brilliant. Look, I want to sap one more bit of information and a piece of advice out of each if you can. I wrote it down what you said before. I loved the term slow down to speed up. So let's get personal and we can start your choice who you want to start with, whether that's you, Nat, or Alita. What's
Nat
one
can
thing?
go first.
Nat can go first. Okay, there you go. Nice suggestion.
Thanks, babe.
Nat, you first then. Slow down to speed up. How do you put that into practice? What's one thing you do to do that?
Oh goodness, that's a really great question because I haven't slowed down for a long time. I've got a 17-month-old who is a wild child. So between work, no sleep, and a 17-month-old, I haven't slowed down for a while. But what I do try and do with work is do retrospectives. So for me, slowing down when I can find the time to do it is ensuring that at work we are constantly doing retrospectives and that we're stopping. So, the Monday after the Hat game, the lead up to the Hat game was absolutely mental. There was no time for slowing down. But on the Monday, we slowed down on the Friday after with a champagne breakfast. So that was nice. So celebrate your wins, I think, is a really good way of slowing down. But, ensure that you're doing retrospectives. So even if it's, 10 minutes, just, what did we do well? What do we need to improve? And what do we need to do to move forward is a really great way for me to just connect, slow down and then know what we need to do to move forward. So it was interesting because the Monday when we did the retrospective, everyone energy was quite low. We were all like, oh, what's going to happen now? And the Hat games are over. And then after that, we're like,
we got sad. Post-event blues.
Slowing down. Yeah. So you actually think, celebrate your wins and do retrospectives. That's how I slow down.
That's a brilliant one. I think we all forget that a lot of the time, and we get caught up in the term rat race. It's real, no matter what level you are in a job or a company, whether you're the owner or the boss, or whether you're your first couple of weeks, you get stuck in doing, and the benefits of, as you said, moving to that retrospective look at it, the review, the report, whatever you want to call it, is going to make that, if that event happens or that thing happens or project happens again or an iteration of it, it's going to make it 12 times better. Love it. Yeah. Alita, you can't steal the same answer, and I should change the question to put you on the spot because you've had a minute to think about it. But what about you? How do you slow down to speed up?
Well, this slowing down to speed up is actually a talk that I did at Inbound, the HubSpot Inbound conference in Boston last year. And I talked about it from a business functional perspective about, the retrospectives and listening to your customers and having those feedback loops. That's a really important part of it. And but I think I'll tackle it from a personal perspective because I think it's really important, especially when it comes to creativity. If you don't have the bandwidth and the time to think, then you can't create. So for me personally, I really enjoy meditation, and I know that it's not for everybody, but just a really simple mindfulness practice with like an app like Mind Valley is really amazing. Just taking that time to kind of slow down, I guess, and coming to your heart center can send completely different thoughts up to your brain, and to really kind of open your perspective. I think, and I'll use this analogy is that, when you're standing in the shower and you're like, oh my God, that's the greatest idea of all time. I need to write it down. And then you're like, but this is just me and water. And, you need something, these scribble boards. But that's because you've slowed down and you've taken a moment where there's no noise coming at you. There's no Netflix. There's no Spotify, there's no nothing, there's no questions being asked except for like internal moments. So even if it's just, taking that 1 minute or 30 seconds in the shower just to stop and just let that water just run over you can just be enough to kind of help you to reset your nervous system. Because there's always so much going on for all of us. So I highly recommend meditating, but and just making some time just for you just to go for a walk, even just turning off your radio when you're in the car just to have some time, I think really definitely helps. And it's why a lot of artists kind of go crazy because they spend too much time on their own. but it's really good in this hustle and bustle when we're trying to get ahead to make that time for you.
No, and I think it's critical if you're really chasing that amazing job that you're going for. You need to be ready for it. And I think looking after yourself, super critical information and advice. And I think I really love the stuff we were talking about earlier around how one person you can be a change maker at the company or the job you're working for as well by asking for assistance and help and suggesting those similar things within the workforce as well. Alita, Natalie, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank
awesome
you.
guests on Dream Job Ready, and great luck for the business for the rest of this year and beyond.
Thank you so much, Dane. All the best with this awesome podcast. Can't wait to listen.